right, been running, air it out, get some of that stuff going, and then we're going to be having a good show for you today. That's the plan, anyways.
Yeah.
And I can't believe we're on episode. How are we on episode 51 already?
Bro, I don't know. It's fucking weird.
All right, so let me go ahead and play the jingle. What's up, Creep?
Hit it.
Here. We're not talking about that this week. All right, yeah. Slightly above average gamers, way above average podcast. Welcome to the Slightly Above Average Gaming Podcast with your hosts, J007TV and Sub1KD.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 51. I can't believe it's been 51 episodes of the Slightly Above Average Gaming Podcast. I am J007TV, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Sub1KD. How are you, man?
Sleep deprived, but otherwise doing well.
Yeah, you got up kind of early for this, didn't you?
Well, I mean, get up early anyways. I was up at like 6. I was up like, I don't know, 5:45, 6 o'clock.
Oh, man, that's terrible.
But yeah, no, we had one of those crisis things. I was driving home to record the podcast yesterday, actually, and came across a dog running down the middle of the road. So it has been the last day and so of sorting that out. So terrible people dumping dogs left and right around here. So I'm kind of at my wit's end with it, ready to just move further away from people.
Does the county or city not have animal control that like patrols the area? Or, I mean, because it sounds like that's a pretty regular dumping area. And by the way, I'm going to go ahead and say it. If you dump a dog, you're a piece of shit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. No, the problem is our county we're what's known as a poor county. We have like one major town, one major city, which is like, maybe 100,000, not even 100,000 people. Pretty small city, and we have geographically a very large county. So I think we have a total of 8 deputies in the sheriff's department total. And we just we get patrolled. We see a patrol down our street about 3 times a week. Period. Like that's the most police presence you'll see. So no, there's nothing out here unless we find something. Unless we catch them on tape. Like they can't do anything. They just we don't have the people, and it's always one of those things of like when you move out away from people to get away from people, you're away from the people that the law enforcement and all that at the same time.
That happens to my parents too. They live out in the country, and periodically people drop animals off out there, and it's just I don't know. Like I said, if you do that, you're a piece of shit.
Yep.
But anyways,
last year somebody dumped a whole ass horse.
That's fucking crazy. Did you keep the horse?
Somebody else did, yeah.
Oh, cool. I mean, a horse you can rehab. I mean, it's not that hard to rehab a horse.
Yeah, or at least
get them healthy.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, it's wild out here. So I unfortunately did not get to play the beta this weekend yet. So that'll be tonight and today's endeavor. But I know you did.
Yep.
You logged, a very short amount of time, right? Yeah.
I played about 5 hours of it yesterday. Already hit max level 30 or whatever. So, the ranking up it was good pacing or whatever. Yeah. And the weapons. I started working on the aims yesterday.
That's the new gun?
No, the aims is basically the Krig 6.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's a site that Jigsy had told me to put on it called the Willis something. It's like a 3x. I'm telling you, that site will be meta for ARs in Warzone once the integration happens, if it's left as it is. There's not really an ADS penalty for it, so you have to try it out. Like if you get your, again, because we talked about the attachments last week with them being, class-based, so
right.
For ARs. So if you have an AR that's ranked up to like 36, like the XM4, you got to get it ranked up to 36 to have access to that site. That site is incredible, dude. I mean, it reminds me of the Axial Arms 4x from Cold War, but it actually has mil dots on it, which are kind of cool.
Okay, so. All right, interesting. I will look for that. I'm going to try and unlock it. So you said it's on the XMR?
You could get it for the XM4.
XM4.
Yeah, yeah, it's an AR sight. So
okay.
I haven't really gotten into any of the other like the weapons yet. I've been enjoying the C9. They nerfed the Jackal, supposedly. That shit is still OP, dude. So here's how I know this. I was at probably 50 meters, 40, 50 meters, getting hit markers with the aims, but getting deleted with the Jackal.
At 40, 50 meters?
It was far. Yeah, it was far out. It might not have quite been that, but it was at distance. It was not up close. Right. So my point is it should have been kind of evened out, right? Like, or the AR should have dominated that fight.
SMG should be dominating at that range. Okay, well, the Jackal's a fun one. I won't lie, it's a fun one to run. The C9, I started running the C9 in the last days of the beta, just to do something different because why follow the crowd? And I actually enjoyed it. I enjoyed it quite a bit. The C9 has good handling. It has a good fire rate. It's very controllable, and I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Yep. Yeah, I like the C9 a lot. That's been the primary SMG that I've been running. Yeah. I put a different build together yesterday with it, like the Ranger foregrip on it that I didn't have unlocked last week, but I just unlocked it yesterday or whatever. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's the beta was fun last night. I mean, my party more or less disintegrated after about 5 hours. So then I went and played golf. But I plan on playing the beta a little bit more today, and then I'm going to probably play some Warzone tonight.
Okay.
I kind of have the itch to do that because I played some solo Warzone. I played actually Modern Warfare 3, the multiplayer, and then some solos in Warzone on Thursday. And I had a fantastic night on both.
Well, good.
It's because I hadn't played those in a fucking while. So, they're like, oh, here's some softball lobbies.
Nice. Yeah. I played with an old buddy of mine a little bit the last couple of nights, and it was not great. It's the lobbies have been pretty diced, but it is what it is these days. But I had an absolute great moment. I was playing with a couple of friends of the pod, and we were got absolutely deleted through a wall by a dude. And I was kind of like, interesting, right? And I watched the kill cam to see if it looked like, like the Expel video where it's like, all right, he's got combat scout and he tags me through the wall and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And it's just like, he's just running one way and he just rotates and starts beaming through the wall. Like, no, you should, like, there was no reason that he would have intel. There was no, I wasn't live pinged or high alerted. Like, there was no room for that. His teammates weren't there. And so I went to go, while the countdown was going, I went to go see if I could report him in the list of players. And my buddy called out that he's like, hey, that guy just got kicked.
Nice. I actually had one I reported that I finally got a report back from Activision that they took action. But, since you mentioned that, I think we should move up the perk system and talk about weapon balancing after that. And the reason I say that is this. So, as y'all know, the perk system works like if you do 3 of the same perks, you get like a little bonus. Yeah. I don't know what the third one is, but I do know that the red ones you get Enforcer, which means as you get kills, your health regenerates faster and you get a movement buff.
Yes.
That's
what I've been running, and it's been fun.
Yeah, so I started doing that with the blue yesterday. So I was running, because I unlocked Cold-Blooded. So Cold-Blooded, Tracker, and Ghost. And then Ninja is finally open. They just put that into the beta. But then your extra abilities you get, because you mentioned wall hacks, is that bit where when you respawn, you see red outlines of everybody. Do you know how many kills I got like that yesterday? That if I wouldn't be surprised if I didn't get reported a bunch, because I would see that spawn in and just ADS that area and just fucking delete people. Like
Love it.
that. And then, you know, another, like one of the side things for that extra bonus is high alert.
Mm-hmm.
That just makes me feel so schizophrenic, dude. I'm not even going to lie, but I won't deny that it did save my ass a few times yesterday. But I wasn't trying to run high alert on purpose. That's just a
Right.
byproduct of running the
just
fort.
added in.
Yeah, because I still hate that perk and think it's cheesy as shit. But that's neither here nor there.
I have such, kind of like you alluded to, I have such mixed feelings about high alert. When I run it and it works, right? It's great. But the number of times that I will be sitting there and, like, especially in Warzone, where somebody's like parachuting over my head, or somebody's like, you know, looked my way from 100 miles away, and it's like going off all around, especially in Rebirth, where it's like high alert will just like be spamming your screen sometimes, and it's
feel like a crackhead with a tick.
Yeah, and it's like there's too much going. It's too much information, and none of it is good information. And I think that's my problem with it, is I don't always know, like, I can't see the flash, and it's like I'll spin around and then I'll see it the other way, and it's like I spin around again, and I'm like, where the hell is it? I look up, and it's like some guy just like floating way up there looking around, and I'm like, seriously? Like, that's all right. And then it'll happen again, and it's actually two guys looking at me, and I get, you know, obliterated because I'm like, I've been cried wolf too much.
You know what's crazy that Activision did, but is not really surprising? I say Activision because like this kind of cheese is in all of these Call of Duties. Why would you put perks in a game that basically will have people thinking that you're cheating, but then wait for it, the biggest component of your anti-cheat is the fucking reporting system? Like like I was watching DJ the other day. So he was by one of the tents, right? Like in an area where there was one of the tents, and there was a guy in a far corner in one of the tents. He had a UAV up, and he just starts wall banging through that tent and kills that guy. I told him, I'm like, dude, I guarantee you're reported for that. I guarantee
Which is funny because it shouldn't be, right? Did he have Combat Scout too?
I don't think he had. He doesn't run Combat Scout, but no, he just knew the UAV was up. Like, he had UAV because I was looking at his mini map, and the guy was sure as shit on UAV.
Well, those tents, I mean, look, those tents should absolutely be one of those things. If you're getting shot through the tents, you should just, it's been 4 years, right, of you being able to shoot through those tents. If you are in those tents, you should know that someone can shoot you through them. And I have shot people through those tents and just like sprayed bullets in there until I start getting hit markers. And it's like playing Battleship, right? Pew, pew,
but
pew,
see,
hit, pew, hit.
I don't know that the guy knew that DJ was around, though. That's the thing. I mean, there was he should have had a UAV indicator up on his mini map. But I mean, also though, too, think about this: the amount of people that don't pay attention to that mini map is astounding. I play with a few of them.
It's still astounding. How is it still a thing that people don't follow their mini map? Like, they don't look at it. They don't even know it exists.
It's weird.
And it's like, look, I don't know. I mean, the way. Did you see J God's new video about kind of what average, above and below average players actually look like?
So is that graphic that Yoshi shared, is that current or is that old? Like the data from it.
It's an approximation. I mean, we haven't had the data for a long time, but
so I saw the graphic, but I did not see the video. If you have it, send it to me so I can watch it, because I'd love to watch it.
Yeah, it was great. I do point out that it's so he overlaid the bell curve with well, let me back up. So he did a video where he looked at like not the average KD, right? Everybody likes to talk about the average KD, right? Like, you want to be an average player. And the average, and they point to the average KD being just below 1, right? Like 0.95, 0.93, somewhere in there. But the reality is it's not, right? Because that doesn't apply to that doesn't mean anything, right? Because if I kill you, then I'm a +1 and you're a -1, right? And so together we are a 1 KD average, right? And if I kill you 5 times and you kill me 1 time, I have a 5 KD average, and you have the opposite of that, and together we have a 1 KD average, right? So the two of us together, even though I have 5 kills to 1 death and you have 1 death to 5 kills, we are on average the same because it's a 1 KD, right?
Right.
But in Warzone, you can Tim the Tap Man yourself. You can die to gas. You can, all kinds of things can
have
go
a
wrong.
Loadout drop on you.
Yes.
I've had that happen twice.
you can drown in the water, right? So inevitably there are globally more deaths than there are kills, so that brings the average down slightly. And so when people talk about the average KD, it doesn't mean anything, right? The reality is you need to look at what's the most common KD and the common KD range. And so the majority of players, exist in kind of a 0.7 to 0.8 range, right? With kind of the average or like the most common KD where most people line up is kind of about a 0.8, 0.83, 0.78, somewhere in that range. And then
that's so crazy.
Depending on the graphics, not the graphics, depending on the data set you're looking at. That's the word I'm looking for. Depending on the data set you're looking at. So then you have this range, right? And so when you look at all of the KDs and how many people, so the way it's usually, you see a bell curve, right? It's like, loads up, rises up, peaks at about that point, and then drops off, and then you have a long tail forward of, the high KD players.
Yeah.
And so, this has been true for a very long time. It hasn't changed much. It's shifted a little bit higher, I think, because a lot of the bottom end players have dropped off and they haven't come back. But the reality is the vast majority of people sit between a 0.7 and, a 0.8 KD, right? Like that's where most players are.
That's so crazy to me, dude. So basically, what that means is that the player base is dog shit in a game that is low skill, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
What the fuck?
And so, and it's interesting because he overlaid it with the distribution of ranked play, right, in Warzone.
Mm-hmm.
Because they do put that out, right, where it's like, you see
yeah,
it.
we saw that.
And so when you overlay them, it's almost identical, right? So most players are high silver or low gold, and that's just where they are, right? Like, and then people don't stay in bronze very long because it's hard to if you the people that stay in bronze don't play very much, right?
Yeah.
Just like the people who have the 0.5 KDs don't play very much usually. And then you get to eventually you get to a point where you are able to at least get a kill a game on average, right? And that would take you out of bronze. And so most people are bad silver, up through low gold. And then you get into this and then you start having skill be a factor when you get into platinum and diamond and beyond. And that's when the game gets challenging. And so his video is super interesting because what he did is he took a look at gameplay from people who were above that threshold, right, of the most common KD, above that 0.85. So somewhere he was asking for 0.9 through 1.1 or something like that. In other words, are slightly above average audience. And when you think about it, if you're an even KD, let's remind yourself, if you're an even KD, you're in the top 25% of all players in the game. If you are a 1 KD, you are a top 25% player. If you're a 1.1, you're top 20. If you have 1 win, you're a top 10% player in wins. 1 win in BR.
That's fucking crazy, dude.
So it's when you think about the distribution of skill in this game versus what we perceive it to be, it's very different than reality. The reality is vast majority of players are bad.
So we're catering to bad players and we're still bad, essentially. Bad players are going to be bad anyway. It doesn't really fucking matter.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, if and again, I'm not a high skill player. I'm not claiming to be. I feel, this matchmaking makes me feel a certain kind of way. Obviously, if you follow me on Twitter, you fucking know. But I feel like, so the group that really gets fucked over in this whole thing and how they matchmake is I'd say about 0.85 to about a 1.05, because you're not good enough to be really like good at the game, but you're not bad enough to be protected. So you're fucking just thrown to the wolves. You're just in that section where
I would push that up to about a 1.1, maybe even a 1.2, like that. Because if you think about a 1.2 player, so what was interesting about it is watching these people play the game, right? You had a below you had a below the threshold, the below the line player, and they were just looting and wandering around and making bad rotations and winning some gunfights, but they inevitably lost gunfights that were because they just made bad choices, right? Like they don't understand, like, and it's not even like consciously bad choices. It's they don't understand how the game works well enough to make good choices.
I need to tell you about a bad choice after this.
Okay, I don't need to hear about your level.
Shut up, dummy. It's fucking Warzone. God damn
it. but there's the whole, like, players that play above the threshold are, they're much more efficient about looting. They're much more efficient about getting their stuff and getting into gunfights. But they lose out on skill, right? And I think, you and I are both well aware of the levels of the exponential growth of skill as you go forward in this game, right? So, like, in my opinion, if you have somebody who's an even KD or a 1.1 KD, so like, the top 25% of players, and you put them against somebody who's like a 1.5, like, they're going to get mopped pretty regularly. And then you get like a 2 KD player, and they're going to get obliterated all the time and then beyond, right? It's not like, oh, they're a little bit better. It's an exponential growth in skill the higher up your average KD goes, in my opinion, right? So the highest players play at such an, there are so many things that they do every second that they're playing that somebody at our skill level doesn't even think about, right? It's not on our radar, and they're up there like doing stuff second, and it's second nature to them that they aren't thinking about it either, because they've already like integrated it into them like breathing. And I think that's why our bracket is completely screwed, because we'll never get to be thrown in to a 0.6 lobby naturally, because we're too good. We would run the table with a 0.6 lobby. We're not good enough to stand toe to toe all the time with the better players, right? So we just get hosed no matter what.
Well, and that's what doesn't make sense to me, and what I hate about how they do it. So let me get this straight. A 0.70 KD player should be protected from a 0.85 player, right? But a 0.90 player should be in lobbies with 2 KD and above and shouldn't be protected? Like, that's a big fucking spread. Like, that's what is so stupid about how it works. I hate that crap, dude.
Yeah, we don't know what the threshold is for protected lobbies, so we're just spinning our wheels on KD, right? Just so everyone's clear, it's like we're not trying to make a statement of this is the way it is. We're just going off of what we know and what we've surmised
and how it feels
for sure. But I think the problem, but again, that problem is like this is the issue, I think, with the SBMM argument, right? If you had enough players to fill out a lobby that met the distribution curve, right, of total players. So, 100 players, in 100 players, right, if 80% of them were below a 1 KD, right, and then it kind of like, just followed the bell curve of like how many players fit in. Like, so theoretically, a random lobby should do that if it's truly random, right? the exponentially better level of play that you get from the high end of that lobby will run the tables on everybody.
So be it.
But the problem is then no one else gets to play. They just die, right? And look at some of these players that play. You know, when they get into these lobbies with players that are below their skill level, right? You get teams racking 100+ kills as a team in a mode that only has 40 other players in it.
Yeah, but they all respawn like fucking 5 times.
Right. You know how much you love getting murdered out of the air when you respawn in?
That's why I don't play Resurgence, my guy.
But they'll do it in BR too. It's not uncommon, right? They will literally wipe out half the lobby by themselves, right? So everybody says, oh, what are the odds that you would run into it? It's 100%. And a 50% chance that you'll die from them in a match, right? When they're running the lobby. And so it's one of those things of like, the game can't survive if you don't have a giant pool of players buying blueprints. And if all they do is spawn in and get immediately obliterated by, you know, and I remember watching guys do this back in Verdansk, right? You'd have a quad go in, you know, in the kill race days, and they would all split off to 4 corners of the map and try and kill race. And you'd literally see like that squad would wipe out half the map.
Did that in Blackout once, and we actually got the win. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like, that's the thing, right? Like, that will be every game, because you look at the distribution of skill. When you look at even like us, right? If we got into a bot lobby, like we would obliterate most 0.5 players, right? And then we would get obliterated by somebody higher than us. So you and I would have a better time. We would have a much better time because we would have a great big pool of bad players to hunt down and kill. Those bad players would just be running for their lives from everybody else on the map, right? And then we'd eventually run into players that were better than us and they'd kill us. And then, you know, you'd eventually have 2 or 3 teams in the top, you know, that are in the top 5% of players scrambling for the win. Like, that would be the vast majority of games. And I'm not saying that necessarily, you know, and so the question of is which do I prefer? Do I prefer having a vast pool of bad players to go hunt and kill? Absolutely. I don't like being the bottom player on the player skill list because I am better than the bad players, but I'm not good enough to swing with the big boys.
Okay? See, that's the difference. I'm not looking to be in a big fucking lobby full of bad players all the fucking time.
But you want enough that you can have fun, right?
I just want a random fucking lobby. Like, just give me a random lobby. It was random before.
But I described what a random lobby looks like, right? So
it wasn't like that in Blackout, my dude.
You just told me you split off and like wiped the lobby.
Yeah, I was playing with like 3 really good players. That happened like one fucking time. It's not like we did that all the time. But no, like, dude, I never once thought matchmaking was a problem in Blackout, ever. This bullshit didn't start till 2019. So, you know, I just don't subscribe to that thought process or that idea. And I will tell you, though, that it would actually be better if they had a ranked mode on the big map, because then pubs would not be as sweaty. Because guess where the sweats are going to fucking go? Because despite what people think, the competitors, at least the competitors, maybe not so much the content creators, they don't get their jollies stomping bots. They want to go and compete against the best because that's their mentality. You know, so I watch the scrims all the time. And, you know, these guys are scrimming. They're running, you know, $2,000 tournaments and stuff like that. They're not out in pub lobbies all the time stomping bots, you know?
Yeah.
But anyway, I mean, I just think that they need to come out with ranked, and I think that solves a lot of the problem.
Well, I mean, ranked BR saved Warzone 2, and it was, for honestly most of these reasons, it was a lot of fun. It was a much better mode. I've gotten more used to ranked Resurgence. I still don't think that that's the mode. and I don't like the way they do ranked, but I think it's a better experience overall to play ranked Resurgence than to play regular Resurgence. So, I'm trying to play that as much as I can, although I'm getting to the point, unfortunately, have more or less solo queued into Diamond or into Gold 3. Couple of days I played with some other people, but for the most part it's been solo.
You gonna push to Plat?
Yeah, I want to get Plat by the end of the season. But
I think you got like a week, dude.
Yeah,
doesn't season 6 start soon?
Does it? I don't know. I should probably check on that.
yeah. I mean, I think you can do it. I mean, I think you're crazy solo queuing.
I'm only 200 points off.
Yeah, that's a couple good matches, and then you're into Plat after a couple good matches.
Yeah,
sweet.
But the problem is now I'm getting to the point where it's like I'm the big fish on the team, and I'm getting saddled with players that are dog shit, and we're getting forced into higher tiered playing things, which it is what it is. That's what happens when you don't have a full squad to run with. But it is definitely going to I'm definitely going to be like a Diamond 1, Diamond 2 player. That's probably where I will stall out, unless I'm being carried.
It's going to be hard to get there though. Solo queuing to get to Diamond solo queuing is going to be fucking hard.
I've had one of my best matches. I ended up in third, and ended up one of the guys got so butthurt he quit out, which was hilarious because it gave us rank protection, so I didn't have to worry about dying. Like I didn't have to worry about losing SR because if your teammate quits out, your squad gets protected from loss. But I ended up just ratting the hell out of the water tower. And there were a couple of teams trying to get us, but they were always busy fighting somebody else. So it was like, it's just free placement SR, which, unfortunately is kind of what you run into a lot more with, with ranked. It's just rattier because people want that placement, which is why I really don't like the system that they put in place for ranked Resurgence, because it in a mode in which you respawn, which respawning is part of the mode. Why are you getting more? Why are you discouraging that? Right? Like, why are you encouraging ratting out? I just don't get it. Like, I don't get the thought process. Besides it being too difficult to rebuild the system for Resurgence.
It wasn't ranked. It was the $2,000 scrims yesterday for the World Series of Warzone. I was watching. Final circle. Can you guess how many teams were alive?
5.
18.
What?
There were 18 teams up. DJ said it's probably going to be like that or more during LAN. Because I noticed that and I was like, what the fuck? And of course, that's SST crazy. Won, but yeah, like there were 18 teams. I mean, big map plays like that. I get your point on like the Resurgence because that's supposed to be the fast paced mode. Well, it went from like you said, being the casual mode to now being the fast paced, sweaty YY TikTok Adderall sniffing monster drinking mode. But there were 18 teams in the final circle, and I don't mind the ratting like that, like for ranked play. Or competitive play, because that's the whole point, right? Like they get multipliers based off of their placement. So, that's the system that it's designed. And actually, I like watching that style of play, that style of tournament, way better than any kill race tournament I ever watched. Because, like I said, we always knew what they were doing to get into those lobbies where they could kill race like that,
Oh yeah,
but
no, it is much better. It's much better to have skill play skill. Like, that's just how it should be, right? Like, and I think especially without a ranked mode, pubs. I mean, look, let me back up to what we were talking about earlier. If they put in a ranked mode in BR permanently, right? Like it always has ranked mode. I have no problem with getting rid of SBMM in pubs.
I have no idea. Like, I can't say so. If your scenario was correct, right? Like if that's what was happening and they had ranked mode all the time, I can't tell you that I'd play pubs very much at all. See, the problem is I think people misunderstand me. I don't mind playing people of equal skill level, with a plus or minus. I don't mind that. What I don't like is being in that group like you and I talked about earlier, where I'm constantly in lobbies above my skill level. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, that shit is not fun, because I'll tell you, before I played Warzone on Thursday, and I had a bad run. I was playing with Riddick, and it just happens like this sometimes. I looked at my last 10, and you want to know what it was?
What?
Fucking 14 and 39, dude. It was a
Skill.
.34. It was a fucking miserable experience. The time before that, it was a 1.5,
Yeah.
that we played. So, but I mean, like, the majority of the times that I play with, like, people that are, higher skill than me, that's kind of what happens. But I mean, like, even in a normal lobby, like, I still have days where it's we're still in lobbies above our skill level. That's what sucks about it. Like, I just want to go. I want to play people of my own skill level.
Yep.
So I'm okay with the strict SBMM if it's ranked play. Pubs, take it out.
Yeah. And the reality is there has to be, look, at the end of the day, we'll dive into this part a little bit later, but at the end of the day, you have to have something for the bulk of the player base that is bad at the game, where they can have fun. Because if you don't, I mean, there's a great experiment on this going on right now, and we're seeing what happens, right? When you don't have a casual player base, when everybody's in it to win it, right?
That's not why. That's not why that game's tanking, dude. I know everybody wants to say it is. That's not why it's tanking. It's tanking because you and I have talked about this. The arena shooter, that's not a big thing anymore. It's either extraction or a BR shooter. And when you release a game that doesn't have that, your progression system sucks. You have no rewards, and your seasonal rewards are not good. You're gonna kill your game. Like, that's why X Defiant's not doing well. Let's not say it's because there's no SBMM, because that's not the case.
It's not the only reason, but it's definitely not encouraging. I'll put it this way: I don't think it brought very many casual players in to start with. Like, and then all of those. I mean, think about it like this: the casual players, the progression and stuff isn't something that's going to be appealing to them anyways, because they're not going to progress very far, right? They're not going to play all that much. But look at different modes of Call of Duty and how well they do with casual players. You have people always in plunder. You have people always in boot camp now. You have them in zombies, right?
They need to clean up boot camp, dude. That shit needs to be cleaned up, man. That people are abusing that.
Yeah, they are. It's ridiculous. It's funny. I ran into made some friends in the game. They love sitting in boot camp because they're not high skill players. Put it that way. They won't play the other mode. They won't play BR at all. They like Urzikstan, but they won't play. They'll play Plunder and they'll play boot camp. They will not play that mode because it's too difficult for them. And it's interesting because they'll run 10 games straight, win, lose, they don't care, right? They're all getting kills. They're all having fun. One of the dudes, he played one game with me, and he was on regular BR duos, and he was like, "This is awful. Like, I'm going back." It's like, no, we want balanced, even lobbies, but the reality is the bottom of the lobby doesn't want to play.
When did that happen? Like, at what point did the player base just decide, because, like, you know what? I work 40 hours a week, have kids. I shouldn't have to hop on and, compete. Like, when did that happen? Because I don't remember Call of Duty like that when it came out.
I think it's always been that way.
I don't remember that mentality starting until, like, 2019, really.
I think it's always been that way. But the reality is there were fewer modes to play back in the day, right? Like, I think of, like, my time in Call of Duty 4 and Modern Warfare 2, right? I only played those games for about 4 or 5 months after release, and then I moved on to other stuff, right? Like, it's kind of like you play, and I would have a good time playing, and then the lobby, the skill gap goes up, the lobbies get more difficult. People who, addicts who have podcasts would play the game and know all the maps and know all the spots and be really, have all their weapons locked, geared up. And eventually I would get to a point where it's like, it wasn't enjoyable for me to play multiplayer. So I'd replay campaign stuff and then I'd move on to another game. And I would just, I would only play it once in a while and then I would just stop playing it. And the next game would come out and I'd buy that and we would repeat itself. And my entire group of friends operated that way.
Mine didn't.
We moved all, and it was like, and people skip, I had friends that hated Black Ops. They didn't play Black Ops.
Yeah, we had friends like that would skip certain publishers.
And then, and then the Future Tech came and everybody quit. Nobody played COD after that until 2019.
I tell you, Advanced Warfare, dude, that game. So I played that for a month. I was literally the last of the fucking Mohicans out of my group playing that. Everybody quit that shit. And I went to Battlefield. But no, like, I just remember, like, playing Call of Duty, like, and keep in mind, I typically don't play, like, a lot of games at the same time. I usually one, maybe two. So I would play it through the entire cycle, right? Like from start to finish. And then on to the next one, that kind of thing. But what I really liked about it is we legitimately could squad up with anybody on our friends list, and it was never a huge issue. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you didn't have to know, oh shit, Jigsy's coming in here. Tonight's gonna fucking blow. Like that wasn't a thing. You could just party up and play. And it was like the social side of it. Like I think that's part of what I miss too. I think that's one of my biggest issues is not being able to just party up with people and have fun. I mean, did we get shit on sometimes when we were playing with some of our higher skilled friends? Sure we did, but it wasn't every time. It wasn't a thing where we could be like, oh, we're going to play with so-and-so. We know what tonight's going to be. Like last night, dude, we were playing the fucking beta and I'm playing with Riddick and Kid. One of my other friends saw I was playing with Riddick. He was like, yeah, I was going to jump in, but I saw you were playing with Riddick, so I just fucking, I didn't do it. And I'm like, that's the part that bugs me, dude. Like, that's, I don't like that. Like, I want to be able to play with all of my friends, like, and not where I'm gatekeeping people out because I'm like, oh, fuck, I know what it's going to be like.
Well, I mean, I think that is part of the problem. That is one of the problems, right? It's like, it's how do you balance it? Because you look at like old CODs, and I mean, yeah, look, there are absolutely people who played the shit out of every Call of Duty, and that's the game they played, and some people have been doing that for 17 years, which obviously mad respect, no problems, but I don't think that that somebody can justifiably say that was the predominant experience for most players.
It probably was, and I don't even know what the percentage breakdown would be on that.
And it's one of the reasons why COD had to be an annual release, right? Because unlike, say, Grand Theft Auto, which did not, right, have an annual release, and now has barely has a decadal release, if that. The
decadal,
yeah. But the big difference is with Call of Duty being an annual release. The whole point is their profit is front loaded, right? So yeah, they would have map packs and downloadable DLC, and I don't know what exactly the percentage of people that bought them, but usually the first one would have a higher adoption rate, and then the next one would have some fraction of that, and then the fourth one who knows who actually bought stuck around to buy that. But the point is that model works, and you could have the open lobbies, and the company doesn't have to care because they've made their money, right? They're done making their money by Christmas. We've
talked about that.
Yeah,
and so that's why they would make fun of Christmas noobs too.
Yeah,
remember,
exactly. Because it's like, all right, they've all spent their money.
Screw
and the next wave of people is when it hits the bottom, the bargain bin, right? And I don't know how many people don't know how many people would be picking that up and going from there, but it's not the same number, like the same number, like any meaningful number, right? It's, you're just trickling in the long tail to try and rack in the extra cash, versus today where and I'm going to put this on us as the player base, right? Especially the vocal player base. We are demanding content excessively, right? How many times is the complaint there aren't enough maps, there aren't enough guns, there's not enough content, there's not enough grind, there's not enough stuff to do, right? If we don't get like practically a brand new game every season, people lose their shit. On, you know, we see it every season. We see it. This is a terrible update. There's no content. It's only 4 new maps and 3 new guns, and one of these guns is trash and I don't like it. And there's not enough zombies content, and there's not enough multiplayer content, and Warzone didn't get a new POI 6 times a year, right?
Yeah, and there's some of those people that would bitch after getting a BJ too. So I mean,
sure, but think about that attitude that we've fostered of like, we just need this constant drip of content. Like nonstop content. We always need something new, and we're going to grind the shit out of it in 12 hours, right? And then be like, well, what's next? Give me more. Give me more. Back in the day, we didn't have more. We didn't have all that back in the day, right? We didn't need all that. And we played great. We had a great time. The company could let us run wild in lobbies as long as we played through Christmas, January, because they've already made their money off of us. They don't care what we think. And if the casuals all quit, it's, you know, it's better on their server load, right? They don't have to pay as much to keep the game up and running if there aren't as many people playing. Versus now, you need to have that massive player base that will shell out cash to play, you know, just to decorate their character every season and play the game. And that's why we have what we have, right? Like, it would, you know, and that's that at the very basic level, that is a fundamental reason why the game plays the way it does, is that the cash is not front loaded.
So let me ask you this, because this is kind of relevant. Like, I want to know what you think, because I've been seeing this on Twitter, and it doesn't feel that way to me. Like, I don't know. But there are people that are talking about how the SBMM in the beta has been ratcheted up, or it's ratcheted up. I don't really feel it, because I'm playing, you know who I play with, and I've had very few bad matches since this beta came out. So is it on or is it off? I would think, as manipulative as these assholes are, it's probably fucking off, so they can let everybody have a good time and buy, you know, oh, hey, the beta was great, let's make them buy the game. And then when the game comes on, they're like, dial that shit up to 11, bro. How did it feel to you last week? Like, how did you feel? Like, how did it feel?
It was fine. I mean, some games I got wrecked, some games I didn't. Some games I did the wrecking.
Are you okay? Okay, so let me ask you this. Are you okay with that?
Sure.
Sometimes being the hammer, sometimes being the nail.
Sure.
But I'm okay with that. That's just a fucking fact of life, dude. You're not going to win them all. Take your L's and move on.
Yeah. And, you know, and here's the thing, right? And this is, I think, what the problem is, this is a problem that Activision is trying to solve for. And I don't know if it's solvable. But some games, like there are maps and there are modes that I don't believe mesh well together, and certainly not with my play style. So sometimes I will be in a mode and a map combination that I don't enjoy playing, and I won't play it. I will back out, right? And so, like in not even in the beta, but in the small map mosh pit, Emergency is, I think, one of the worst maps ever made.
Yeah, I don't really like that.
I hit that map, I'm out, right? And heavens forbid I'm not paying attention, right? You know, waiting for shit to load in, and I look up and I'm like, I'm loading into Emergency. I'm like, shit. I'll play till I die, right? And sometimes I'll get a couple of kills, and then I'll die because of some stupid angle that map has. And it's like, all right, out. And so the number of bad players that will sit through a bad match is not going to be, I think, as high as people expect it to be. And if memory serves, this was a problem back in the day too. People would quit out of matches that weren't going well. So you'd end up, you know, especially on domination or some of these other modes where, like, team balance is important. You have to have, if you don't have a full team, you're not going to be able to play the mode very well. Like, you will just be at a perpetual disadvantage.
Which is why I play, especially unless I have that full team like you talked about, it's either TDM or mainly kill confirmed. I prefer kill confirmed, but those two modes only. I don't play the other shit, dude, unless I have a full team.
But it's like, you know, I one of the matches in the beta, I had I was playing really well. It was the HVT mode. What is that called? I can't remember.
Kill order.
Kill order. And dude, I was the HVT for half the damn game.
You get that UAV, man.
I was, yeah. I mean, and we had like one or two other good players, and it was just constantly UAVs up. I found a really good spot that we were on Skyline, and so I was in a really good spot where I could see or hear them coming before they could get to me. So I always had the drop on them, and that team never pushed in groups, right? They were all playing solo. So I had to get one guy coming up the stairs, I'd shoot him in the head. One guy coming around the corner, I'd shoot, I could hear him coming, and I'd pre-aim the corner, or I'd drop down behind him and gun him. And I was just always there as the HVT. And then about halfway through, half their team quit. So it was 6v3. And they never, ever had a chance. Like, they just got blown out. It wasn't even
crazy
close.
They didn't even try to fill the lobby. Or the other thing too is when they did fill the lobby, people would come in and be like, "Oh, this team's getting shit on. I'm out," and they'd leave too.
And so it's kind of like, so I had one of my better matches. I had like a 3.8 KD in that or ED in that match. God, ED is such not the word we want to use, because that just implies so many things that can go wrong for a man. Anyway. The EKIAs, I guess we'll have to say. We can talk about that in a minute. But like I had I was over a 3. Led the lobby by far in score. I had like 1,000 more score than the next person in the lobby on both teams. And for me, fine. It was an easy game. I got to put my feet up and lay the pipe, but the other team, they went through it, and most of them didn't stick around. And I think and I think at the end of the day, if most lobbies experience that, right, where most of the lobby is bad and the bad team gets shit on and they all start quitting, then even the good players are going to get shit on, because you can be Scump or Shotzi or whoever, and if you're 4v1, the odds of you winning that is still low. You might take one or two down with them, but in this game, in multiplayer, with how fast the TTK is, if you're trying to play an objective and you've got 4 people pushing you, I mean, it's tough. It's going to be tough,
dude. So I got on yesterday and I played the new map, Babylon. Mm-hmm. It's a smaller map, and like we talked about last week, the developers said with this game, it's going to be small to mid-size maps, right? Like that's their goal as far as like map design. And the other thing too, I want to say this about map design. I'm kind of getting tired of seeing on Twitter like people crying about like, oh, these maps are shitty, this and that. It's a fucking beta. They're not going to release their good shit in a beta. You're not going to get the best maps in a beta. You're just not. Calm down.
I just want a good Nuketown.
Yeah, but I mean, like, if we get the game and it launches and then the maps are all like this, then sure, that might be a problem. But like, let's let them cook. It's a beta. This is not about rolling their best shit out. You know what I mean? Like, for over these 2 weeks, this is about trying to make sure they play test and like find glitches and everything else, and let people get their hands on the game. So calm down. But this Babylon map, it's kind of a love-hate thing with me, dude, because, I mean, it's perfectly square, like on Dom. So then, like, in the center, you have stairs that come up on all 4 sides.
Mm-hmm.
And on Dom, the B flag is there, and the hard point is there as well. Like, the hard point moves there if you play that map on hard point, I think. Dude, yeah, it's brutal. But I'll tell you, my first 2 games on there, I dropped 50 on both of them. I think I had 56 on that one, and it's very fast paced. I think it might be a good map, maybe for grinding guns. Maybe not so much for the camo challenges, but like it's got like these little catacombs and then little pathways, and then there's some head glitches you can get on too. And the combat axe is back, baby. I had so much fun with that last night. I died a lot, like trying to get combat axe kills, but I got several, and it was just fun. I had a good time playing the beta yesterday.
Yeah, I'm gonna log into it. I need to have some carve out some free time. I've got You ever have one of those days where you just like you look at your schedule and you're like, what the hell did I do to myself?
Dude, yeah.
I gotta go deal with that dog as soon as we're done here. Then I gotta go get the house ready because we've got somebody coming over to adopt one of the puppies. And then they're gonna probably stay for dinner because we have other people staying for dinner, coming over for dinner. So then that's gonna be packed. It's gonna be a long freaking day.
How are you gonna game it all?
I don't know. Probably stay up late. I usually do.
Dude, I think I was off last night by like, I know I was off of Call of Duty, I think by like 10, maybe even sooner than that. And then I played a couple rounds of golf and got irritated with that. And then I just hopped off. But no, yeah, I've had those days. And like right now, like for me personally, like this is my busy season of work. Yesterday I was busy as hell. I mean, it actually worked out that we didn't do this yesterday because I don't think it would have been very hard for me to focus on like what we're doing. Right. Like, so I'm glad that we're doing this today, but no, I think the new map is cool. I didn't play the other one. They rolled out some new weapons that I haven't really gotten a chance to get my hands on yet. Again, supposedly they balanced the Jackal. That thing's still OP, dude. I was still, like I said, still getting deleted with that. So, I think the bait is fun. I'm really looking forward to if the game is as good as this beta is, I think this next year is going to be fun. And I can't wait for the integration into Warzone. Because they're bringing the wild cards and the gunfight. I'm telling you, the meta is going to be the gunfighter perk with the 8 attachments, first loadout, and then it's going to go be just like Overkill Ghost was in Verdansk. Remember, we talked about that.
Yep.
I still think that's what's going to happen, or some variation of that.
So are they getting rid of the whole droppable perk system?
See, I don't know. Oh, you mean like when you die, like you come back and grab your
lootable perks?
I don't know. That I don't know. They didn't say. So, like, I think that's one of the good things that they did bring in. Like, that wasn't at the start of War. Yeah, well, there were no perks at the start of Warzone 2, if I remember correctly, right? Like, we didn't have perks until Season 1 or Season 2. I thought we started out, like, no loadouts. People complained about that. So if there's no loadouts, there's no perks.
No, we did have perks, right? Because that was the only reason you would go for the freeloader, just to get your perks, because you could buy your guns.
Yeah, but when it first launched, I'm talking like first 6 weeks. I don't think
you could have perks. You could definitely have perks.
Maybe you could buy a perk package. I'm trying to think, dude, because remember, they didn't have loadouts and everybody complained about it.
No, they did have loadouts. They were communal, though. You didn't have individual loadouts. You built a loadout and they dropped communal loadouts along a flight. They would put 9 of them down along 3 flight paths.
And everybody complained about that too.
And then the first one to get would camp the shit out of it and trash everybody that got it. So that they had perks, right? And so their argument was you could buy your guns right away, right? For the same amount that you would have to buy a loadout before.
It was 5 racks for each gun,
right? Which was interesting because it kept people it was interesting how it played, because a lot of people, you would catch a lot of people looting early because they were trying to get their guns and they were trying to get the money for it, for the whole squad to have guns. So they'd be out looting. And if you happen to get lucky and pick up a good ground loot, you could chow them early and they weren't ready for you. And
the ground loot overall was really good. I will say for Warzone 2, that's probably one of the better things, is the ground loot was pretty solid for most of it, for at least a good part of it anyway. Maybe not the entire time, but early on, dude, it was
early on. I thought great.
You could win with ground loot.
Yep.
And the ground loot here is actually pretty good, especially since, and that's another thing, we talked about like improvements that they made. So like, coming back from the gulag, now you have decent weapons when you come back. You at least have a chance. You're not just, you know what I mean? Like coming back with that suppressed STG, even though it's only 30 rounds, it's still something. You can still kill with it. Yeah. Like, I think that's good.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of good elements that they've kind of hung on to. Most, we were talking about this offline, most of the quality of life and new elements they've brought back are just replacing stuff that they'd gotten rid of with Modern Warfare 2.
Yeah,
So it's
plating
kind of
and
like,
running. Sliding and shooting. The biggest thing for me was sliding and shooting. I wanted to be able to slide and shoot. And now with this game and what's coming, we can do that and more.
yeah. I think the problem with, with the whole sliding mechanic, with the movement mechanics that we have is they're still trying to hamstring you, which, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but
they're nerfing some of the stuff too. From like they nerfed, like there was one kind of advanced movement. It was like a slide drop shot bunny hop type thing. And I guess they put a delay on there.
You mean in the beta they just did?
They already nerfed that. But I mean, dude, it's not going to take long. I give it less than a week and we're going to have movement videos, and I can't wait for it because I want to try to learn as much of that shit as I can.
Yeah. I think they're going to try and staple down some of the excessive stuff, like that diving 360 barrel roll, no scope. Like,
I think they should leave that in. That shit's fun, dude. That's the 360 no scope is one of the great things about early COD, man.
Yeah.
It just sucks if it happens to you.
It sucks if it happens to you, and it sucks if it interferes with your ability to shoot them while they do it. I'll put it that way. Like if you're not, even if you track them, like sometimes they do that, and the rotating doesn't land shots as well because reasons. Hit detection is terrible in this game.
I think it'll get better.
So as long as they keep as long as you can hit people, like that's one thing that I've seen. So this is one thing that I've seen with the advanced movement, with this Omni movement, which is why I don't think it's going to be as burdensome for casuals. Is it definitely seems to mess with aim assist, and so I'm curious to see when people actually are able to test this thoroughly. And I don't know how they're going to be able to do it because we still haven't been able to find a way to test kind of the stickiness aspect of aim assist, and that I think is what they're messing with most because it doesn't feel sticky the same way like it does.
Not like Modern Warfare 2 and 3 did.
Yes, and so I think what they're doing is they're reducing the magnetism. I think magnetism is the official word that people use in development,
and I'm okay with it.
And I'm fine with it too. I think it's good, and it's good for survivability, right? You survive more gunfights that you would just get obliterated, like deleted with in Modern Warfare 2, right, or Modern Warfare 3.
Modern Warfare 2, you had no fucking chance.
Well, because
you couldn't move, yeah.
Right. But in Modern Warfare 3, even in Modern Warfare 3, like I get deleted trying to escape gunfire way more than I do in the beta of Modern Warfare of Black Ops 6. So I think the survivability is good, and I think that there is a very strong likelihood that we will see the movement, even the basic movements, being used to avoid initial, to evade and escape gunfire more than it will be an aggressive thing from kind of like the majority of players. And so, people will get used to either a slide or a dive or some aspect of it where they will just learn a button combination that gets them out of certain situations, which is good. And the flip side is that when people who aren't high skilled are using Omni movement aggressively, they end up flopping on the ground like fish and are easy targets, and it's hilarious.
Well, one of the things that I do like using the Omni movement to evade, like to keep from getting killed, like you said. But like, I really also like the fact that the Omni movement gives you options in how to approach gunfights too. Like I said last week about diving in a room with campers, or like if you're on the other side of, say, like a pillar or something, like a large broken bridge or whatever, like how you approach that. And I've found that I'm winning some or a lot of gunfights just being able to use movement and putting myself in a much better position to and get a better angle. But also, too, I'm going in and I'm still even though it's the beta, I'm still going into the training range every day before I start practicing it because it's new. It's new to me. I didn't play Gears.
It's a new skill.
Yeah,
it's something that's going to take effort to learn, and it's there's a lot going on with that movement, which is exciting. I mean, it's nice that there's going to be more to do than just slide or dive. It is. I'll say this though, in Warzone, is really funny. You can see who's switching back over because you see people dolphin diving all over the place now.
Dude, I tried to backwards dive the other day. I caught myself doing that shit, dude. I'm like, crap, I played this beta too much.
You've been playing the beta, and now you're prone down on the ground, and I'm going to kill you. And that's been a benefit to me, personally. But no, I think it's been a good. I think the movement at the end of the day, the movement won't be the problem. It is definitely, obviously, it's a skill gap, and I think the skill gap is going to be learning to use it aggressively, and the people that put the effort into learn to chain together movements better are going to they're going to do very well, and hopefully they continue to tweak the aim assist where it is still beneficial. And I so have you felt the lack of aim assist at 3 meters much?
I haven't even really been thinking about it, but no, not really. Like it hasn't been an issue. But also, too, let me say this: I'm playing this game on a higher sensitivity than I've probably played any other COD.
What are you playing on?
It's low for a lot of people too. That's what's crazy.
What are you playing on?
Well, okay, so let me tell you what I played like Modern Warfare on. I was playing that on 4.4 or 5.5 at the most. I'm at 7.7 on this. And my ADS sensitivity, I felt like 1 was a little too much for me because I would like overshoot the target a lot, like overcompensate. So I dropped it down to on Modern Warfare. I think it's a 0.8, and I bumped it up to 0.85 and 0.90 on this game because you just have to. Like, so I'm getting used to it. Creep came in the other day through chat. And he asked what I was playing at, and I told him, he's like, really? He's like, dude, you really need to get on like 10-10. He's like, if you can do that and then, figure that out more or less, I'm paraphrasing, but like, if you can get that down, he's like, you'll be breaking ankles.
Yeah. I played at Sear. I have different PC plays different than console. It's much more responsive for some reason. But I played about a 10-10 usually.
Jeez.
9. I think on the beta I was playing on an 8.8. I toned it down a little bit because it was the Black Ops is much snappier movement. But yeah, I play at a much lower or much higher sensitivity because otherwise you just can't react fast enough. The controller will not let you react fast enough to people on laterally around you.
Did you go in and change a bunch of the settings too? So like that sprint assist and all that stuff and the sprint delay?
Let's see here. Sprint assist was on for tactical sprint, and then I turned off the delay because I don't know why you want to delay in sprinting. If I want to move, I want to sprint, and then
if I want to delay, I'll go play Modern Warfare 2.
Facts. You and 3 other people. Yeah. No, I don't want delays. I got rid of the delays. Which on mouse and key, I didn't change it back for mouse and key, and it was definitely an issue. In week 1, they fixed it now. Allegedly, I haven't heard otherwise. But in week 1, if you had no delay on mouse and key on sprint assist or something, then it would screw up your ADS time. It was weird. It was a weird bug. And so the day I played it on mouse and key, I was struggling with that. It just wasn't responding right. And so I think that was an issue on my end. And I played, let's see, what else did I mess with? A lot of my graphic settings didn't get set right. So when I tried to play it on the Xbox, it was like locking me at 60 frames, which was miserable, utterly miserable. I can't believe how much of a difference more frames makes. Like, if you are not running 120 minimum, like, it's time for a new TV or whatever you have to do, because 60 frames is 60 frames and below will be unplayable in Black Ops 6. You will suffer so much and die so many times because you just cannot move smooth enough to keep up. Put that out there.
Yeah.
But but no, I keep my sensitivity up pretty high. I subscribe, especially in Warzone, to a high sense and a low ADS setup. So I want my ADS to be around a 6 equivalent, give or take. And then I want my movement up as high as I can move it and being able to stop where I want to stop.
So I'm told also that like I saw somewhere, and I don't know how factual this is, but like you can adjust your dead zones where it'll help you with the rotational aim assist and being able to like really track a lot better. Is there any truth to that?
Yeah. So dead zone in Call of Duty, dead zones are dead zones are the area that the amount of movement your thumbsticks can move without registering an action, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like a 0 dead zone is you breathe on it and the thumbstick registers movement. Okay, it's for most, in a lot of situations it's not actually as ideal because just resting your thumbstick on it, your heartbeat, depending on the game mode and your sensitivity in game, your heartbeat can jitter your character a little bit at 0 sensitivity. Now, most, so if you're like 2020 and you're trying to line up a perfect sniper shot, right? Like you're going to get additional movement just from your body moving. And so
Mm-hmm.
most people like to have like a 0.01, 0.02 sensitivity.
I think mine's at like 0.10.
You should probably get that looked at.
I need to open that up and look at it. It might be what you were saying, and maybe I'm just leaving off a 0, but I know it's like 10 something or other.
I mean, if you're up above, like, if you're up at 1 plus, yeah, I mean, you've probably got a lot of stick drift or a lot of dead zone. But basically, what the reason you up dead zones is, you move dead zones up or down, is usually to counteract unwanted movement. So controllers have stick drift, right?
Yeah, mine has stick drift. The one I have does.
When you start getting stick drift, you up your dead zone to eliminate the stick drift, right? So that it stays put. When you have Call of Duty, and the way their aim assist works is the aim assist itself is based on stick movement. Okay, either right or left stick. When it's in motion, then it activates the aim assist. Okay, so rotational aim assist in specific. And so the more your aim assist is, the more often your aim assist is active, the more it will track players and pick up players in gunfights. And so therefore the better you will be able to react and engage the enemy, right? So this is one of those things where most bad players, right, they don't move their feet as much in a gunfight. They stand and shoot. And the problem is, if you are standing still, you aren't getting rotational aim assist. So what people do with their dead zone is they actually reduce the dead zone as low as possible while still being able to control the controller. And what that does is that perpetually activates your rotational aim assist. So like having lateral stick drift is the best case scenario if it's just a little bit in your left stick, because then you lower your dead zone so that your character will just kind of always move to the side, and then you just learn to correct it, right? And so by naturally correcting for that stick drift, and the stick drift existing in the first place, the stick drift will actually activate your rotational aim assist, and then you correcting it will continue to activate that rotational aim assist. So you will always have it, right? It's always on.
Interesting.
So when you reduce dead zone, when you reduce the dead zone, like I said before, you're putting motion into your stick normally just by existing when you have a 0 dead zone, especially on a high sensitivity or higher sensitivity. So what happens is actually you get that active aim assist already just by holding your controller, right? Just the act of holding your controller puts motion in the stick, and you only need about 3 to 5% movement on your stick in order to have that aim assist be activated. You don't need very much movement. So a low dead zone, especially on your left stick, puts aim assist into play. like just perpetually.
Interesting. I'm gonna have to look at that later. So, you first person shooter Roundup.
It doesn't look good.
How are we feeling about them?
Not good. Standout is Delta Force. Delta Force is doing well. They're wrapping up their open beta, and then I forget what their launch period is. What launch window was.
Yeah, I'll probably check that game out depending on when it comes out.
And then they're working on a console port. So right now it's a mouse and key only game, which is not terrible. Because everybody else is on mouse and key, so it's like you still get a lot of the fun moments of people screwing up. I enjoy it quite a bit. Been playing it here and there, but I think they're adamant that they don't have pay to win mechanics, unlike Infinite Breakout, which is loaded with pay to win mechanics. So we'll see how that does long term.
Which nothing but failure on that company in that game.
Yep.
Because that's the same kind of bullshit we get pissed off at Call of Duty about sometimes.
Yep. And they're just straight up doing it.
Yeah.
Gray Zone. Man, that game had so much potential, and they just couldn't keep the content moving.
Well, it wasn't just the content, but it's not a game you can really go play by yourself. It's fucking the AI were top 250 type players, dude. They never missed a shot.
The AI was brutal. The AI is brutal. What did it for me? What did it for me is waiting for helicopters.
Yeah.
I just was I remember sitting there in a field for 10 minutes waiting for a helicopter to come get me. And I eventually just walked back. I just spent 15 minutes hiding in bushes and sneaking around and walking back.
I want the game to do well.
Yeah, I like the idea. I mean, the idea is cool. It's like a full open world. I remember you and I played a couple of times, and I remember that one time you died.
Why you always got to bring that up, man?
But you died, and then you went off. You respawned, and you were actually able to come back and get your shit.
Yeah.
Which was a cool. That is cool. I like that, and especially in an extraction shooter, where it's you're with the squad. You're so that perpetual world in your server where you can just go and go back and find the guy that killed you or find your kid again. I think that's a positive thing. I think that's good. That's a really cool idea, but I think they've taken it too far in a way in that we have the helicopter issue, right? Where it's I've seen people complain about they wait 25, 30 minutes for a helicopter to come get them.
Yeah,
and it's
that's too long.
You can't. It's a video game. You can't do that, right? I get the idea that you want everything to last for all time.
Yeah,
and you want it as realism as possible, but at the same time, it's also a game, and you have to strike that balance, or people aren't going to want to deal with it.
It isn't fun to just sit in a fucking rice paddy waiting on a goddamn helicopter to come in.
No, and I mean it's I get I get where you want the extraction to be meaningful, so you go and you call it in, and you got to wait for you got to hold out for a minute while it comes to get you, right?
Fine.
And maybe calling it in attracts enemies in the area, so you might have a hot exfil where you have to fight your way out. Zombies does this very well, where you call in a chopper to get out, and it's you're just getting mobbed with enemies, right? So if you're scrambling to survive, right, and you're not having your best day, getting out can be a challenge.
Yeah.
And especially if you're getting out in one of the higher tier zones. So you can make that experience exciting and engaging, but theirs is just sit and wait and wait and wait and wait. So I think that's their biggest Achilles heel. It's just the amount of time you spend waiting. And then there's a lot of quality of life stuff. But they've been teasing this night mode for 4 months. And
is it finally going to come?
I guess, but am I going to play it? I don't know. Probably not. I might try it once. I gotta
be honest. I'm probably not going to. And again, not a terrible game. I want the game to do well, but it's just if I don't have people to play it with, I'm not going to go play it by itself. Kind of like X Defiant.
Yep.
X Defiant is another game. We talked about this a little bit earlier. It's not a bad game, dude. I just don't like playing it by myself. if I'm going to play by myself, I'll just go play Warzone solos, or I'll run a little bit of Modern Warfare 3 multi and then go play Warzone solos. Like, I don't want to play that game by myself because there, and you really want to know why? Because there's just too much involved with the abilities and everything else to try to go in and solo queue in that game. It's just not fun to me to do that. When I have a full squad or 3 or 4 people, hell yeah, that game's fun as hell.
See, I didn't mind. I don't have a problem going in solo queue, but it's like you can't go in solo queue in that game necessarily, and unless you are a very high skilled player, expect to win your match because the odds that you have teammates that aren't idiots and don't and understand that you have to play an objective, like they're.
Well, that's why I played. What was it? Hot Shot.
Hot Shot.
Yeah, that's why I played Hot Shot.
And
problem solved.
I played that with you. Yeah, I played that with you, and I didn't have a good time. I didn't enjoy it because it just stacked. Like I was just, So one of the things I like about Call of Duty, right, is you can most of the modes, especially like Kill Confirmed or some of these other modes, you can play individually and you can contribute meaningfully, both in it's even in domination and stuff. Like unless it's hard point, you're not hard stuck. Like playing the objective, there's a lot of ways you can kind of hop in, hop off the objective. You can do a lot of stuff. You can play as an individual, on a squad versus having to play as a squad. I think there's a big distinction there, and you get a lot of rewards for your individual play. Right? You have the kill streaks. You have, you have the weapons that you can play. You can deny people access to the zone. Right? You can do a lot of stuff as an individual that can be meaningful. Right? So like, for example, in domination, if you run or hardpoint, right? If you run up a cluster strike or an airstrike, you can deny the other team the ability to get to the hardpoint, right? So you can be beneficial to your team without actually sitting on the hardpoint. That doesn't exist in Defiant, right? So you have to play the objective in order to advance it, and all of the stats and awards are tied to your objective score. It's not tied to your kills.
Well, and they're fucking like whatever they got going on for like how they keep track of like your statistics. I don't really like that because it doesn't really. It's just kind of weird to me. Like to me, it doesn't drill down and it's not specific on certain things that I want to see. So, like I don't really like that. But yeah, you're right about that. Like I don't know if they wanted it to be like that as far as like focus. I mean, maybe they did. They didn't put kill streaks in there.
Yep.
But you already had abilities, so do you really need abilities and kill streaks? That's why it cracked me up when I see people asking for kill streaks to be thrown in there. It's like, bro, you already got fucking abilities. Like, why do you need a kill streak too? Yeah. Like, it's not COD. If you want kill streaks, go play Call of Duty, dude.
Yeah, and I mean, I will be clear up front. I don't love the hero shooter style of play. It's not my thing.
Me either.
Like, the abilities, like it doesn't do it for me, and that's fine. That's me. A lot of people like that mode, which that sort of thing. Which great. I'm happy for you. But I think Defiant, at the end of the day, their big when they came out in beta, their big emphasis, their big thing, advantage they had was they were not Modern Warfare 2. They weren't. Yeah. They were not Modern Warfare 2, and they released the beta, and the beta was very well received, and they didn't have SBMM, which is a pool for high-skilled players, but I don't think that's a selling point for a majority of players, especially not players that are used to Call of Duty and other shooters that have SBMM in it. So, I think their best opportunity was launching in the middle of Modern Warfare 2's life cycle. But all they really did is indicate what players wanted for Call of Duty to do. And now Call of Duty is outclassing them in most fields.
Oh, dude, Modern Warfare 3, I don't really have any complaints about the multiplayer for Modern Warfare 3, really.
No,
like it's very good. Black Ops 6, I think, is going to end up being better than Modern Warfare 3. Like, yeah. It's like I said last week, it feels like COD again to me, but new at the same time.
Yeah. And I think, so we talked about it earlier in the episode, but I think, you know, the SBMM issue is an attractant for high skilled players. I think it's more of a detriment overall to an overall player base because the vast majority of players are not good, right? So to them, losing protected brackets does not improve their situation.
But if they're still bad with SBMM, what fucking difference does it make?
If you are a 0.7 player in SBMM, and then you flood the lobby with high skilled players.
How are you going to flood the lobby? They're the minority. That's what I've been trying to say the whole time.
Okay, you put one in on the other team.
Big deal. There's always one person in the lobby that's shitting on everybody else. That's Call of Duty. It's fuck away. It's always been.
My point is, if you don't have that, if you play where everybody is at your skill or below it, and you're still a 0.7, right? Replace some of those bad players with really good players who are going to drop triple digits in the game. You're not going to be a 0.7 player. You are going to be a sub 0.5 player.
If it's random, how often are you in those lobbies?
Statistically, based on the distribution, there will be a 0.2 plus KD player in every lobby. There's the skill distribution puts that at random.
If it's even, then it's not random. Because they're specifically putting those in the... If they just fucking shake up a goddamn bowl and then dump it out, and that's what it is.
But that's how statistical distribution works, right? If you have a pool of 1 million players and you take 100 players out of that pool randomly, they should land on the same distribution as the skill over time. You may have outliers here and there. You might have one time where you don't get a high-end player at all. You might have one time where you get a bunch of high-end players, right? And there's a lot of little factors that can contribute to it, but the overall average is going to be the average because that's how averages work, right? If you have a distribution pool that goes like this, at the end of the day, you're going to have an average distribution that matches it. That's how, it's, I mean, if it's random, right? The only way to not have that is to start putting controls in of like, how many good players can you have? How many bad players can you have? Like, which is what we're in right now.
Yeah, it's too fucking much.
I'm just saying, if you're a bad player and you struggle to break even as a bad player against other bad players, the idea that we're going to put even better players in your lobby is not a selling point to you.
Well, of course it isn't gonna be.
Right. It's a selling point to me and you because we get stuck with the better players a lot more frequently, and that sucks for us, right? But we are not the majority. We are only 20-25% of the player base.
Sure.
Right? 75% of the player base doesn't want that.
But how did COD grow to be as big as it did then?
Great marketing. And they outlasted most of the other games. I mean, they were fun, right? They were fun. They had good fun modes. You look at a lot of the other things, and here's the other thing. Other franchises have been mishandled into oblivion. Halo it isn't that COD was better than everybody every year. It's that everybody else screwed up.
Did you know that
Halo mishandled into oblivion? Battlefield mishandled into oblivion, right? Every other major franchise, Titanfall, dumpstered for Overwatch, right? Every other competing franchise, it went to shit, and Call of Duty just stayed.
Did you
existed.
Know that Halo 3 is regarded as one of the best FPS shooters of all time? And you want to know why? No SBMM, a great ranked mode, and a great social ecosystem.
I mean, ranked by who? I mean, it was an Xbox exclusive, so it didn't have the same player base. It did well sales-wise.
Yeah. It was a great game, but general sentiment about it is that it was great, and those are the reasons why. I've seen that several times. I've talked to people who actually played the game, and they say the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I disagree. I think GoldenEye was the greatest FPS game ever played. It had strict SBM. It had incredibly strict SBMM. It's who you invited over to play, right? That was the SBMM. I don't want to play with Johnny down the street because he's too freaking good. I'm gonna play with my buddy Dom, who just sucks, and I can shit on him all day. He didn't want to play that very often, but that's the point, right? Like, given the choice, nobody wants to get shit on all the time. And so if you sit there and you have a game where it's like, my whole point of this game is that the bad players will get shit on more than they do against when they only play bad players, that's not a selling point for the bad players to want to play the game. That's my point. And you can hate it. I don't like the Warzone lobbies that I get these days because I am too good to play with the bad players, and I recognize that, but I am not good enough to play with the really good players. Or if I do, I need 3 other really good players on my team that can drag my ass to the finish line. Okay? All right. I know where I sit, right, in this skill spectrum. I am fully aware of where I am in this, but I can also recognize that changing it up so that I get access to bad players more often is not going to be good for the game as a whole, right? And we'll end up like X Defiant, where there's just nobody playing. Look at Battlefield. Nobody plays that game, right? Like, look at all these different games look at all these franchises that they could have been great and they're just abandoned.
Okay, dude.
Except for hardcore audiences. Like, there's hardcore players who will play those games no matter what.
That wasn't the point of my question of why Call of Duty got big. It got big without this type of bullshit in it. So the idea that all of a sudden it'll fucking fail doesn't make sense to me. It's like you get to be one of the most popular FPS shooters ever that there probably ever will be without this type of shit. It got big on its own without it. Big on the merits of the game, not by who it was fucking protecting.
Yeah, and if you look at, again, we talked about it. Like, if they got rid of their lower skill players, we would not have Warzone.
Who says they're going to leave?
They're already leaving Warzone. They're already in other modes.
How do we know that? We don't even have any MAUs, DAUs, player counts.
Where are they?
I don't have a problem filling lobbies.
How many? We don't have stats, but I'll tell you this. We know people that have used Warzone Agent to go look for these players. They're not easy to find. Even when you're doing every manipulation you can find. I can tell you this, it's not easy to find lobbies of bad players. And when you do, there's usually 1 or 2 other sets of good players in there, and they're running the lobby.
See, I think that these dudes that were VPNing back in Verdansk, they're the ones that really created this fucking stigma. And they're the reason why people are now convinced that this type of bullshit is a good thing.
I mean, maybe.
And the kill race tournament formats, all that shit
none
is
of that
why it is the way it is.
And you know what? And it's probably convinced more, and I'll give you this, it's probably convinced more people that they need to be protected so that they don't have to put up with that than you can imagine. So yeah, you know what? I'm gonna give that one to you. Absolutely. I think the kill racing and the way that tournaments ran, and the VPNing and the world records and the next two boxing bullshit.
Yeah.
Right. That has done more damage to the game as a whole.
Yeah. I agree.
Any amount of cheating you could possibly imagine, because it has changed the perception of the bad players. And I'll tell you this, I think the majority of bad players believe with their whole heart that a lot of the players that do well in this game are cheaters.
Oh, 100%. And we've talked about that before. And also, I'll say this, though. I think that our generation, somewhere along the line got lazy, dude. We got it in our fucking head that because we work a 40-hour week and we might have kids, that the game should be made easy for us, or that we should be protected. Like, we weren't like that in our 20s and 30s. In fact, the thought never even crossed our mind, so... And again, full disclosure, dude, I tried a VPN for a month. It didn't do shit for me because I'm just not high enough skill for it to have really mattered. And the only reason I wanted it was because I wanted fucking random lobbies. That I did kind of get. Mm-hmm. But, I didn't see a drastic increase in any kind of like statistical or anything like that. I've seen more of an increase playing solos by myself. But,
And I think it's one of those things of like, when you want to ascertain the overall health of the game, like the health of the game is when you have a huge pool of bad players that are out there, because they're going to fund the game. Let's be honest. Like that's where the funding is coming from. It's not coming from the top 10% aren't carrying the game. It's all the Timmy Two Thumbs wanting to buy the, the cool skin, or, Bob the Builder getting home and like, I don't want to grind this gun. I'm just going to buy it. Right. Like that's where the money's at. Right. And you
I'd love to see hours played distribution of the hours played. I think that would be the biggest indicator and prove or disprove one way or the other how that whole thing works.
We'll never get that.
No, fuck no, we won't. It'd be great if we could, though. But I mean, again, I'm a sales guy. Numbers are my life. That's how I judge whether something is doing well or not. So yeah, I'd like to be able to see the hours played versus dollars spent.
Yeah,
because I don't necessarily buy the fact that because I'm not going to spend a bunch of money on something that I don't play very much. Like I'm not going into fucking, Gray Zone doesn't have that, but I'm not going back into X Defiant and spending money there. I don't play the game. Why would I? And if I, you know what I mean? Like I'm not doing that.
But let me put it this way. You've been playing golf, right?
Yeah.
You ever going to spend money on golf? You keep playing it. Maybe you want to dress up your character a little bit.
I spent $5, but I'm playing a significant amount of it though too.
Okay. And if they come out with, I mean, I don't know if that game is still being supported. I don't know what year.
I don't know either. I just spent $5. Like, yeah, that's all. But
like NHL, right? Like you could, you have that hockey ultimate team, right? Like that's a super easy sink on money.
People are doing that with Madden too. Like the Madden Ultimate
does
teams.
It. Or some of these other stuff. Like you'll sink some money on cosmetics because you want to look good, while you're playing it. But that's kind of the thing, right? Like those games are annual, and so they're going to have a front load. People want to look good early. They want to buy their way to to being competitive early, and then as the game wears on, the play drops off. So does their spend, right? Call of Duty Warzone specifically is a perpetual game. It doesn't have a start and an end, right? It just is. And so people will come in to play, I think they've alluded to this in their white papers, but I think the cycle, and we probably have observed this, is the new season starts. A lot of people come back to play the season and check it out. I think people that don't play as often are going to be in there, and they will say, "Oh, I don't have this gun unlocked. I don't have it leveled up. Let me buy the blueprint."
Probably up, down. Like it's probably like
they
that.
tail off.
Yeah.
And by this point in the season, most of the the bad casuals are not playing right now. They're doing other stuff, and then when the season rolls over, they're going to come back, check it out. Right. That's the cycle. And if you look at Steam charts, you kind of see the site. You can kind of see it in the monthly charts. Right, you can see where season peaks up, new season starts, it's up, and then it goes back down, and it goes up, and it goes back down, and versus games that don't have that perpetuality to it, right? Big boost, drops off, and is dead by the end of the year.
Hey, show me the drop for Concord.
You don't have a magnifying glass big enough.
Am I good at the segue or what?
What a fuck up that was.
What a fucking disaster that is, dude. Holy shit.
Oh, dude. They did it to themselves. Okay, look.
2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Lasted 2
I heard
weeks.
the peak player count on that was 600.
Mm-hmm.
There are probably more people right now watching fucking Just Talking streams on Twitch.
Yeah. So, oh, man. What a screw up.
You think somebody got fired over that?
I don't think so. Well, I think the whole team is going to get fired because they're going to close the studio. They can't afford to lose $200 million.
That's crazy.
And stay alive. Like if Sony doesn't close that studio, they're idiots. Like they are some of the worst business people on earth.
Dude, you know what I'm kind of thinking though, and I wonder if this could end up being the case. So like that failed, Cyberpunk failed, Battlefield failed. How much longer and how many more of these do you think will happen before these developers are like, fuck it, AI, just develop it?
Probably would be better for everybody at this point. Here's the problem. Here's why these things are failing. It isn't that the game is bad. All right. From all intents and from all I've heard, the gameplay was actually fun. Right? It's a hero shooter, a little bit of saturated market, but from what I've heard, the gameplay was actually fun. It was snappy. It was well done. It didn't have the netcode issues that X-Defiant has. So from that point of view, I don't think they were far off. They suffered from this unwillingness and inability to listen to their customers. And I think that's the problem that we're running into, is that people don't want to listen. They want to make what they want to make, which is fine. I get it. Like, I'm a creator. My wife's an artist. Like, I want to make what I want to make. I want to say what I want to say. I want to do what I want to do.
Same here.
But I have to understand that if I do that, it might not be what people want to buy, right? And so I think most people who do this for a business, they try to find a middle ground, right? They try to say, okay, I'm not going to make something that I'm going to make something that I want to make, but I'm going to accommodate the people that are going to be the customers, right? So like, my wife is my wife is a great example of this. She is a classical oil painter by profession, right? Like that's what she went to school for. That's what she has a degree in. That's what she did professionally for a very long time. The problem is that when you get to oil paints, it's a very narrow market, right? When people are going to spend $700, $800, $1,200 or more on a painting, they don't necessarily want to buy what my wife wants to make. They want to buy what they want to have on their wall, right? And so she has to make what people want to buy, which typically is pictures of their pets or landscapes of places they visited that have an emotional meaning to them, which my wife has no interest in, right? She doesn't care that you love the tree in Carmel, right? She doesn't want to paint that. And so she retired from painting and moved on to switch over to cooking, and has been much better because everybody likes to eat, right? And so she has a much better market for that. Everybody appreciates how well she can paint, but nobody wants to buy what she has to, nobody wanted to buy what she had to sell because she made what she wanted to make, right? And she didn't enjoy making what other people wanted her to make. In game development, we have this, and it's in movies, and it's everywhere in entertainment. We have this idea that people want to make what they want, and everybody who doesn't want that is wrong. Okay?
Yeah.
The saying in sales is the customer is always right. It's not because they're always right, because the customer are idiots and they're always wrong, and we know that. But the problem is they have money, and I want them to give us their money, which means I have to give them what they want. Sometimes you are a visionary like Steve Jobs, and you can tell them that they are holding their phone wrong, and they will still give you their money because what he's making is better than everything else. That's not true in video games, and it's not true in in movies. It's not true in these other things. If you make something for a very narrow audience, and you are very vocal about this is not for you, other people who don't like this idea, don't be shocked when no one shows up. Well, and that's the problem.
That's also why too we don't share our politics. Neither one of us do on Twitter. Like I have my own beliefs and things like that, but I'm on Twitter for Call of Duty and for NFL football, those kind of things. I actually don't really pay attention to a lot of political shit on Twitter. We don't talk politics on our podcast, nor in our streams. Because I don't want to alienate anyone. And I feel like I should be able to get along with you regardless of that, because we have a common interest and, it's Call of Duty. Yeah. Or NFL or whatever. So I think that some of these games are getting, a little too big for their fucking britches. I think that there are certain brands out there in the world that are doing that too. It's like, dude, I just want to consume your product. I don't want you to preach to me. I don't need you to try to fucking manipulate me.
Well, I mean, look at Battlefield, right? Like they didn't listen to their customers.
Yeah, and
they put out 2040. They put out 2042, and they said you're gonna want no scoreboard. You're gonna want no. And if you and they were very adamant that like if you disagree with us, you're wrong.
That's the craziest shit ever.
If you think that the way we're doing it is wrong, then this is not Battlefield is no longer for you. Is what they were clear about that. And you know what happened?
We just weren't playing it right.
Nobody wanted to play the damn game, and it died. Right?
Yeah, we just didn't know how to play with their fucking operators or specialists or whatever.
Yeah, and like, oh, if you want a scoreboard, you're toxic, right? No, it's not. I mean, yeah, a little bit, but no, it's not. That's not the reason we want scoreboards. We want to know how we're doing, right? And it's like these companies and these developers, and I don't, and I see the sentiment show up at all levels of development, which tells me it's systemic, right? Too many people are out there. They want to create their art. They want to create their vision for things, and they don't want to listen to their customers because they want to tell their customers what to do.
Can I mention James Gunn and what he's about to do to the fucking DC universe?
And you? What's he about to do? Because DC has been trash for 20 years.
It really wasn't that trash. People liked the Snyder universe. He's going off in a completely fucking... He basically killed it, like Wonder Woman, like Henry Cavill, all that shit. And he's like making movies. Like he's doing a Superman movie and then like some other obscure shit that he liked when he was a kid or whatever. But like people want Batman, we want Wonder Woman, we want the Green Lantern, we want the Green Arrow, we want Superman.
We do not want Ryan Reynolds as Green Lantern. That is not what we want. No one wanted that.
Deadpool took care of that. That didn't happen. He went back in the timeline and fixed it. Which I saw that movie last weekend, by the way, and it was fucking incredible.
I haven't seen it.
Awesome. You need to go see it. But no, like, dude, like you're right. Like, just people don't listen to their customers. Like, or take feedback.
Yeah. And it's like this is just modern gaming, right? It's like everything's done in a boardroom. And it's like, the ideas are, in Modern Warfare 2, right? Same thing. Everything's done in a boardroom and nobody asks, do you want this, right? You look at what the customers have and what they're playing, you say, well, I don't think they want this. I think they want something different. And then when you do something different and everybody says, we don't want this, instead of taking a step back and saying, hey, let's maybe think about how we can find a common ground where we want to push things forward, but at the same time, we want to keep things keep our existing customers happy. They say, well, you're wrong, customer.
They double down on dumb shit.
And COD has done a fair bit of this as well.
Oh, 100%. Right? Yeah. They're just too big to fail.
Are they?
Evidently, after Modern Warfare 2.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. Modern Warfare 2, they made a lot of money, so they made a lot of money and they've been struggling to put it back together ever since, but there's nobody out there to take their money. There's nobody out there to take their users, right? Everybody else has failed.
Twofold. That goes exactly what you just said. A, everything's done in the fucking boardroom now, and so it's profits over fun. It will be profits over fun every time. That should not be any question. Activision is never going to choose your fun or my fun over their profits, so they're just not going to, unfortunately. I mean, we can keep squeaking the wheel because the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? But yeah, like I forgot what the other thing was going to be, but yeah, that's exactly like what you were saying. Like they just don't, too many decisions are made in a fucking boardroom. And, people that actually play the game and love the games, those are the people that should be making the decisions, not the fucking, management who probably hadn't played a video game in 20 years.
But I'll point this out though. When Modern Warfare 2 came out, right? In the early beta, in the betas they had things about red dots, and they basically told the users to go F themselves on red dots, right? In multiplayer, and then they had all the Warzone decisions, and they said, this is what we're doing, right? And the customers said, no, thank you. Right?
Yeah.
And instead of doubling down, what did they do? They gave us loadouts. They gave us plating while running. They got rid of the 2v2 gulag, which was a terrible decision, but they got rid of...
Agreed.
They sped up movement, right? They started giving us movement boosts, right? They couldn't do it right away. Well, But then what did they do when Modern Warfare 3 came around? They gave us back they gave us back the things that people said they wanted, right? Which has been the journey of Modern Warfare 3. Whether you like that or not, right? If they followed the Concord example or they followed the Battlefield example, Modern Warfare 3 would have played just like Modern Warfare 2. They wouldn't have changed it, right? But but it's not that they are too big to fail. It's that they sat there and they used their money brains and said, if we tell our customers to go F off, they're going to. And so they started giving us back the things that they wanted. And you can argue that they manipulated and they drug it out and they didn't like just revert it, right? And they just milked out as many bumps of cash as they brought back, one thing here, one thing there, one thing here, one thing there. And that's a valid argument. That's a valid thing to criticize them for. But at least they gave it back. Okay, and now in Black Ops 6, we are going forward and we're not re-adding things, right? We're done re-adding. Now we can move forward versus what we had, versus some of these other games, which just did what they want to do and said, screw it.
If for nothing else, Modern Warfare 3 should be known for getting Call of Duty back on track.
Right. And they could have easily said, screw you. We like this because insert reason here. This is what we're doing.
And it should also show you that top 30%, because the top 30% players are the ones that were complaining about Modern Warfare 2, are important to them too. They're not morons.
Yeah. So this is the issue.
So there's a way somewhere to make everyone happy.
And this is what, kind of goes back to my point about, why SBMM exists, because they're trying to make everybody happy. Somehow they're trying to make it available for as many people as possible versus other games, which are like, you don't like it, go play something else. Oh my gosh, they're not playing my game. Why aren't they playing my game?
That's not true. Apex has a pretty big skill gap, man.
Sure. But, Apex also has SBMM.
Yeah, they do.
Right?
They have ranked, but they just, I feel like they probably do it a little bit better, though.
Yeah, they could be. They're definitely better communicators.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, dude, their white paper was out 2 years before Call of Duty's was. Call of Duty had to be dragged, kicking, and screaming into fucking doing one. I mean,
you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Call of Duty did not want to say anything about it, and I think that's a great criticism that people should continue to leverage against Call of Duty, is that they are very, very closed about what they're doing and why they do things. And at the end of the day, I think it's a detriment to the game overall, right? Well, we don't know why things are done.
Yeah, exactly. But see, this is my thing too. Like, and I know we're wrapping up here, and I said this on Twitter. I'm not overly eager to trust a company that has openly admitted to manipulating the player base. Like, I just don't trust the data all the way, because I guarantee you there's some proprietary shit that they didn't put in there.
Well, they're not going
patents. Yeah, like there's all. I guarantee you, there's fucking all kinds of shit in there that we don't know about, and other factors that they're considering as to why. And to me, also, I like to see as much of the data as possible and what the control factors were for how they came to that data and those kind of things. And I just don't feel like we really got a full picture of it, and that's why I don't trust it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it should not. It should be read with the understanding of this is what they want to tell us, not this is everything they're doing. And I think some people expected them to just lay out the whole algorithm and like explain every like code line of like, oh, this is the part that, calculates this, and this is what calculates that, and this is how, like, we'll never get that. Okay.
Well, and to make matters worse, though, so two things. One, you said this a while back, that basically that white paper was more or less the stuff they were putting out that would keep them out of fucking court. Something like that. I'm paraphrasing, but I think you said that in one of our conversations. But the other thing is, and the other reason why I think there's a lack of trust from me and other people is, they went out of their way to kill the fucking stat tracker websites. Why would you do that? If what you're putting in that white paper is gospel, then you should be okay with those stat tracker websites, because kind of like Ronald Reagan said, trust but verify.
But
I miss those websites, dude.
Oh,
I love being able to see those.
Absolutely. I'll go on all day. We'll be another hour if I get down that road. But I think at a very high level, it is probable that they were pulling monetization away from Activision.
How though?
Well, they had their own app. You know that, right? You remember that?
Yeah, of course. Call of Duty's got his own app too.
No. Call of Duty had its own app.
Yeah.
With stats and everything in it, right? And that pulled a lot of engagement off, and it allowed,
that makes sense.
It allowed them to organize tournaments and organize unsanctioned play, right? And lots of different ways of ranking things. I think they didn't like the idea of ranking lobbies, bronze lobbies, gold lobbies, etc. I don't think they like that.
And it didn't look good too that you're fucking all your creators that you have at every one of your events, like a lot of them are
sitting in bronze lobbies.
Yeah, like, because I mean, at the end of the day, I don't mind the streamers, but like at the end of the day, there were a lot of people that were doing some of that shit, and
sure,
it doesn't look good.
I think at the end of the day, ultimately, it's this anti-toxicity push. Ultimately, I think is probably the thing that did it, because you couldn't talk to somebody, especially on like Reddit or some of these other places, you could talk to somebody without them pulling your stats, and then and then that becomes like a point, or like that was just a common thing, right? Of like everybody's trashing on everybody else based on pulling stats, pulling lobbies, right? All this stuff. People were hunting down players' alt accounts, which I don't, good or bad. I mean, like, and then the what's it called? The hell, hacker hunters were like leveraging that stuff a lot too.
Yeah,
there was a lot of toxicity around having that information readily available, which, I mean, in theory, it goes along with playing games online, right?
I just was thinking that too,
right?
Yeah,
like that's just part of it. And I think this mentality that they've adopted, where nobody is allowed to be offended, is driving force in it.
You had such a great point last week too, when you were talking about how they turn on prox chat if you're being used as a meat shield. Like, no, that's a great point. Like, that kind of fits with what you just said. Like, that was such a great point, and I agree with you for sure. Like, it doesn't make fucking sense.
Yeah, that's I think it. You just let it be, or you don't, right? Like, you don't, don't nanny cam us, and then put us in situation, like put us in those situations. Give us our stats back, and acknowledge that people are just toxic assholes, and it's not going to matter. Like, it's not going to matter whether they can pull your stats or not, right? Like, I mean, I don't
really give a fuck, man. Pull my goddamn stats. I don't care. I'm trash. I'll admit it. Fuck you.
The only other thing that I can think of is that there was a monetization factor, and things like Warzone Agent out there, like allowing people to really, VPNs and stuff, allowing people to like really, really abuse the matchmaking, like actively so. So I think that's possibly part of it, but I know that they got rid of the real-time tracking earlier. So I don't know. There's why they did it. We'll probably never know unless somebody quits the company and leaks it. But the reality is they don't seem inclined to give it back. That sucks.
Yeah, it does. I thought that was really cool.
But hey, at least you can put it on. And this goes to the other thing. Like, now, if you want your stats, you have to like ask Twitter for it, so the whole world sees.
Yeah,
like,
I know. I fucking
just put it out there. Let us just look at it.
I actually did that for the beta, and then I saved the photo and then deleted the tweet.
Oh, mine was fine. 1.2 or something.
Yeah, mine was fine too, but I just
Yeah, my win. You can tell that I solo queued a lot because my win percentage was like 0.4.
Oh yeah. Yeah, mine was like 1.14 for that, and like I think the elim to death ratio was like 1.12.
I don't know how people win so many games, because it's like I get all the idiots who just don't understand what an objective is. It's like they're allergic to the box. It's like, go stand in the box. Just stand there. You suck anyways. Stand in the box. Get killed in the box, earning objective score, and help us out.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna camp in the corner and hard scope the side and get shot by somebody on the other side because I don't know how to play.
They're really gonna like camping with this fucking movement, though.
Boy. Well, we got what? A couple of days of beta and then a month and a half.
Yeah.
A month. What is it?
Yeah.
It'll be a month and a half, right? So Worst Cities of Warzone. So one more season. Yeah, we're almost there. It'll be hype of a new game. And then what else? Yeah, I mean, we'll see when Delta Force comes out. I read I thought they were gonna release kind of near the end of the year. So hopefully they're not drowned out by Black Ops 6.
Honestly, dude, I think they'd be dumb to release before the new year.
Yeah, they should release in February.
Yeah, use the COD cycle, dude.
Yep.
Sooner or later, these fucking other studios are going to have to learn that. I don't know why they won't. Like, going against Call of Duty, because the problem is you sit there and you look at it like their board members are like, well, Call of Duty did this much. Why aren't you doing this much? It's like, well, no shit. It's a 20-year franchise. This is a brand new game. I'm not going to have the same player base. And they try to compare too much, and it's stupid.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, it'll be the end of the year. We'll wrap up nicely. We'll have that. And then we'll have, I don't know, maybe they don't want to wait till March because that'll be, what's it called? Verdansk. So we'll see.
I truly believe March 10th will be the day, or
thereabouts. Yeah. It'll be if it's not a 5-year anniversary thing that they've just milked the shit out of, it is just, they need to fire the entire Activision marketing department.
The crazy thing
fire them all.
They're a fucking marketing team that just happens to make video games nowadays.
And
think about it. And everything's marketing.
Anybody would know that if you want to release the comeback map, the original map, you do it on the 5-year anniversary of the game. Like, boom. That's when you do it. Like, I mean, you and I called it like a while back. Like, that would be a great time to put it out. So hopefully that's what they do, and they've got their head on straight, and they can actually like acknowledge, do it in such a way that really pays homage and baits the nostalgia and really makes the game. It really makes it an event. Like, that's what I want. I want events. I want fun brought back into Warzone. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, on that, we've got everybody sticking around long enough. We appreciate you. Thanks for coming in, and we're going to catch you all on the next one.
Later.
This has been Sub 1 Kitty, along with J007 TV and the Slightly Above Average Gaming Podcast. We're logging off now, so we'll see you next time.